talk about and bring awareness to. Um, the you know, Arjun, I feel that a lot of us have actually gone through this so many times, and yet are struggling with it. And I think this podcast really will try to address some of the issues that we have, how to overcome those, how to actually use the resources in the best way. So, the first thing that I think we should touch upon that we always hear these days is networking and job referrals, right? Everybody talks about it in terms of job applications, and sometimes networking and job referrals. Networking specifically gets talked about much more when it comes to just applications or when somebody is really daily looking for a job. But we know that it goes so much beyond that, and networking really starts much before. Um, in terms of, in the context of a job application, when a professional is looking out for a job, how do you think they can approach this? Do you think they can even get started with seeking the right job referral,
Yeah.
reaching out to somebody?
Yeah, I think we definitely have started sort of right in the heart of the matter here. Just to contextualize, Sahiti, I think you framed the problem well, which is that a lot of times today, people have lost their faith in applying the way they used to, let's say 5, 10 years ago, just on portals, hoping that they would hear back within at least 3, 4 weeks from companies and start interviewing after maybe 1 to 1.5 months and land a job maybe perhaps within 2 to 3 months, right?
Yeah,
On average, this used to be the experience like 5 plus years ago. And what has happened over the last 3, 4 years, especially post COVID, is this traditional job search strategy and job search experience has really turned over on its head, where it's very different from what it used to be. So now people are applying to these portals, but they are not hearing back even after almost 3 to 4 months of applying. Hardly any interview callbacks for many, many professionals. And I'm not talking about people who have non-linear journeys. I'm even talking about folks who have had fairly linear journeys, no gaps on their resume, good credentials, decent tenure at last company as well. So there's not any particular red flag per se.
yeah,
It's basically something that should have been attractive from a recruiter hiring manager standpoint, but still is not driving the intended results that a job seeker is expecting. And I think, I mean, to me, it boils down to a couple of different reasons why that is happening. I want to just share that and maybe
yeah,
get your thoughts as well, because it's important we identify the problem before we jump to the solution. So
yeah,
I think the number one issue with the market is it's just overcrowded with a lot of great applicants out there today,
yeah,
right? So earlier, on average, if there were about 100, 200 people, at most 250, 300 applying to an opening, today that volume has, I would say, at the very least doubled for most roles. But for
yeah,
many roles, it's even tripled or quadrupled, right? So it's now, if you look at the number of job applications that are being made on portals like LinkedIn, Naukri, IM Jobs, Well Found, etc., these are the mainstream ones. There are other ones as well, but it has increased, I would say, on average from about 150, 200 to about 500, 600 on average, right? Now, because of this, and certain other factors, people don't hear back as soon as they would like to, and sometimes they don't even actually make the cut, meaning recruiters and hiring managers have not even seen their profile because there's a plethora of applications to go through and no human can go through so many, right?
yeah,
So ATS, I know a lot of people talk about ATS systems, which are applicant tracking software systems, and they are used by almost, I would say, most large and mid-sized companies at least, and many small companies as well, to manage recruitment in a more efficient manner. But the thing is that a lot of these ATS systems are also not perfect, right? So they miss out on great candidates. Perhaps, like, if somebody has applied after the first week, for example,
yeah,
they may miss out on that, right? If somebody has let's say, said one thing which threw the ATS system off because of a very blunt criteria that has been fed into the ATS system, they may decline the candidate right away without looking at the holistic picture.
Right.
So there are many reasons why ATS systems are also not perfect today. So because of this, and because of less human bandwidth to review 500 job applications, people are not hearing back. Now let's talk about what are the solutions. And I think the first one, which you're absolutely right, is the most popular today is networking, and primarily referrals within networking. So a lot of people today know that job boards are not working if you just blindly apply and wait to hear back.
Yeah.
And to counter that, they've been seeking referrals. The issue with this, I mean, I'll highlight the first, like what the issue is, and then what can people do perhaps to, drive a better ROI on this. I think the one issue is a lot of people are applying this approach of seeking referrals very mechanically
Yeah.
without putting a lot of thought into it, right? So earlier, what people were doing, and many people still do this, they just apply on any of these job boards by just hitting the apply button, and it was very mechanical as well. They don't really read through the JD. Many times they're applying to the wrong jobs. I mean, for example, we at Pivot, we had a job opening a couple of months ago for a program manager role, and believe you me, Saiti, within 24 hours we got 600 plus applications within 24 hours, right? And we went through a lot of them and realized many of them were not even reading the JDs because they had applied for the technical program management role, and ours was a non-technical program management opening, right? People from Amazon had applied to this opening, thinking like it would be a Amazon type of role from a tech program management. So it's clear that a lot of people are not reading the JDs. So the first thing is that anything that you do blindly or mechanically, no matter what it is, whether it's hitting the apply button or trying to seek referrals, it doesn't work, right?
It doesn't.
And yeah, I'll give you an example. In referrals, a lot of times what people are doing is they're going to GPT or another AI tool. They're asking to draft a referral request message, and
Yeah.
they're copy pasting that message to people who work at the target company, right? And they're
Yeah.
sending it in hordes. So there are people who are sending, let's say, 10, 15 messages every day, maybe even
Yeah.
more, right? Um, they are not doing any customization. They are not even checking who they are sending it to. Is it the right person? Is there another person they can send it to,
Yeah.
who would be a better one to reach out to? And they are doing it again as a sort of mass application game where they're expecting results to improve, but it's not
Yeah.
happening because they are not hearing back from those people they are reaching out to. And even if they hear back, a lot of times they are not getting the referrals, right?
Yeah.
So, what works, I'll try to concisely share here, is being more thoughtful and
Hmm.
doing as much customization of your outreach, in terms of firstly identifying who are the best people to reach out to. We can drill down into the factors here, but number one, you have to figure out who is the best person to reach out to.
Yeah.
Is it the hiring manager? Is it the recruiter? Is it your potential peer who will be working alongside you, or somebody else from a different department who you know, but they are not working in the same role or function? So there are multiple options to choose from. And then obviously, the other thing is what kind of messaging are you sending them?
Yeah.
And that is something that many people are using AI for, but it's not working. And we need to help them figure out like what works better. So I would say something that actually captures that person's particular career journey, if you
Hmm.
don't know them that well, especially. Let's say you go to the LinkedIn profile, you identify that they have written about a specific project or a specific function area that they work on. Can you try and identify something that might have been of interest to them, not just to you, and talk
Yeah.
about that, right? If you don't know them, especially.
Yeah.
Because when you're reaching out to strangers, they have zero obligation to respond to you. So you have the onus of developing that interest in responding to you, right? So customization of that messaging is very important based on the person's profile, or if you don't have much on the person's profile because the LinkedIn is very blank, um, you can also do some research on the company and see if the company is doing anything interesting that you can talk about in the message. Ideally, I suggest this as the initial opening for your outreach. And it makes much more sense to do something like this rather than just saying, hey, can you refer me for this job?
Yeah, of course.
There are obviously more things to cover, but I'll take a pause and I would love to understand from you also, like if you have seen, certain drivers of success here, things that help people get more referrals.
Yeah, I think the first thing that you mentioned really makes sense because I've seen it, come true every single time. Anything that you do very mechanically, a copy paste sort of an approach doesn't really work well with networking and referral seeking, especially. I think what is really important is even if you use, like, let's say an AI software, being very tone cognizant is very important. Like, a lot of times your messages can appear very tone deaf to the person who you're reaching out to. I think that personal connect is very important, and that can really happen with finding a common ground between what you are doing and
Mhm.
with what the person you're seeking out a networking or a referral from is. And I think even that approach of directly seeking a referral doesn't really work anymore. It hasn't ever worked, because there I think humans need that connect, for them to help you. Everybody will help you out with advice, but when specifically they're helping you out for a referral, they want to kind of know you better. So I think that approach really helps, of first seeking some advice or connecting with them, talking to them once, and then then checking if they would be eager, like, okay to help you,
Right.
or actually give you a referral. I think
Yeah.
that
And
uh,
just on
customizing
that
that
point,
message.
yeah,
Yeah,
just on that point, I just wanted to highlight one thing because it's a really important point that you have brought up. Um, I have found that there are two situations where even if you don't know the person directly that well, they can
hmm.
still give you a referral. Um,
Okay.
okay, so obviously, if you know the person well, then you can ask for a referral. I mean, I hope that is well understood, right? You don't need to establish trust with somebody you already know, or they
Yeah,
have worked with you, or they are friends or family, right? So those folks you can ask for a referral right away. Now, if you don't know the person that well, or they are either an acquaintance or a stranger, um, one is second degree connections, right? Find a
yeah,
common connection between
yeah,
yourself
absolutely.
and that person, right? So if you see that, okay, person A is working at your target company, you don't know them, but you see that, okay, there's person B who is a common connect and you know that person really well. Rather than reaching out to person A directly, reach out to person
Yeah,
B and ask
to
them to
that.
make an intro to person A.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trust
Introductions always work.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we have seen much better success rate with
Hmm.
our clients when they have reached out to folks in that way. But the other
Yeah,
thing with Pivot has been, I think, really instrumental for a lot of our clients is when people are looking for a referral, they tap into Pivot's own network. So Pivot has a community of
yeah,
industry experts and industry professionals, and there might be certain other platforms out there as well. See, when you reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, you are just taking a blind leap of faith
yeah,
because you don't know them. When you join a community like Pivots, you are again meeting new people, but you're
yeah.
meeting them through a warm intro, right? They are there knowing that they need to help professionals land their target jobs. So they may
Yeah,
not always guarantee a referral, full disclosure, it's not always going to happen. There are many reasons why it might not happen. For example, the role might have already have been filled by the time you reach out to them, or maybe your profile is genuinely not the best fit for that role. So they might not want to. But by and large, we have seen that if there is a decent alignment with the target role and the role has not been filled yet, then a lot of our industry professionals who are part of our network end up referring many other candidates, right? We have done that with thousands now. So
yeah.
joining such a community is also very helpful in today's time, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I do think that, warm referrals, warm connections have always helped. Like having that second degree, or a common degree connection always helps. And I think that's what platforms like Pivot bring, that common connect that helps people connect to their, expand their network and connect and get a referral much faster. um, is there anything that, in your experience, has been something that is not talked about much? We've talked about platforms, we've talked about, second degree connections. Anything else that you think
Yeah,
while networking,
I'm
people
glad
are
you brought that up.
missing?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad you brought that up. So, when I think about referrals, I mean, one of the things which I feel is more important is also to when you're showcasing your, uh, alignment with the role. A lot of people talk about, for example, what they have done in their previous role from a
yeah,
responsibility perspective, right? So, like similar to when we are drafting our resume or LinkedIn profile, a lot of
yeah,
folks really go into, okay, for example, I'm a program manager, so I do SOP development, I
yeah,
do stakeholder management, and yada yada. So there's a lot of focus even in the cold message outreach or the warm outreach where you're trying to convince the person to refer you that I have XYZ responsibilities in my current or prior roles and hence I'm a good fit. I think you really need to focus on showcasing impact, showcasing contributions, and being very concise simultaneously. See, in
yeah,
resume, you have one page to write. In a cold message, you don't. You have maybe one
yeah,
paragraph or two at most, right?
yeah,
So you really need to pick your words very carefully. And do you really want to talk a lot about your responsibilities, which everybody has, right?
yeah,
They don't differentiate you. What differentiates you is what you have done with those responsibilities, what
yeah,
achievements you had. So I think a lot of times people unfortunately miss out on highlighting their biggest achievements and what they can do for the target company they're applying to based on that. So you might say, for example, I have as a, let's take a marketer as an example. So a marketer might be responsible for driving qualified leads to the platform. Now they might say, okay, I increase the number of leads from X to Y in my prior role. What they can do is maybe give a high level idea of what that secret sauce was behind that increase and how they would apply that to their target company. Like, for
yeah,
example, if they did that through the new way of doing SEO, which is AEO. So you can talk about, okay, we had our company listed in ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, X number of times on average in a week. And this is how we would do that for you if we were to bring that to the table.
yeah,
So this kind of an approach in messaging also really works well, I would
yeah.
say.
Yeah, it shows direct impact. It shows the outcome oriented approach that every employer now is actually looking for. And somebody who's wanting to refer you would also want a person who has that drive to show that impact and who has the drive to bring that impact to the organization. So that's
Yeah,
absolutely true. And I think being concise at the same time really is very very important, because you want to catch the attention, and not really take away from what you're trying to say.
yeah.
um,
And in fact, we
yes,
have some really good outreach templates which sort of showcase this kind of style of writing when you're reaching out. There are probably, over 30 or 40 templates that we have designed for this, but we
okay,
have removed a lot of them because we are always experimenting to see what brings us the best
yeah,
response rate, right? And
right,
anytime we get a template that we believe has gotten better response rates, then we try and encourage people to use more of that. So right now, the one that we have actually gets on average somewhere around 20% response rate, which beats the market average by almost 3x, 4x, right? So market
okay,
average
nice,
response rate is, I would say, less than 5%. And with
right,
us, we have seen almost close to like 18, 19%
right.
response rate on this. Yeah.
That's interesting. I think if anyone listening is interested in that, you can leave a comment, and probably one of us, our team, will actually send you a link to the resource, if that's helpful. Um, I think let's talk about reaching out to hiring managers, because that's also something job seekers actively do. We always
Mhm.
seek out to hiring managers. LinkedIn provides us a platform. There are multiple platforms. You can actually reach out to common connections and then find out hiring managers who are hiring. Um, you can do that via platforms like Pivot and other mentoring platforms as well. Now, what do you think really helps when somebody reaches out to hiring managers? What is that approach that will drive success?
Yeah. Um, yeah, so firstly, I want to just clarify the difference between the first and the second approach that you're talking about. So the first is seeking referrals. See, you usually seek referral from anybody in the company, right?
Yeah,
Typically, it's not the hiring manager because the hiring manager is the person who gets all the referrals internally,
yeah,
right? So let's say I'm a head of product and I'm hiring a new associate PM, product manager for my team. So if you're applying for this role, you would not ask for a referral from the head of product who
yeah,
is hiring for this role. You can, but they would not push that referral to anybody else except themselves. So you are essentially reaching out to the person who's getting all the referrals
yeah,
internally, right? So when you're seeking referrals, you can reach out to anybody really within the company. Although, like we discussed, there are certain people who are better suited for you to get referrals from than the others. Now, with regard to the second approach that we are talking about, here you are reaching out to the decision makers directly, right? So hiring team, hiring manager, maybe the recruiter. Within this, we have seen better response rates from hiring team members and
hmm,
hiring manager much more than recruiters. That's the
yeah,
reason that I think you and I are focusing more on the hiring manager as opposed
yeah,
to the recruiter, right? Recruiters usually get very bombarded. They also don't have always very in-depth knowledge of the field to
yeah,
assess every candidate very quickly. They can, I mean, they have the potential to assess candidates even technically, but it takes time, right? As opposed to hiring managers who are very big on understanding the skills and the core differentiators between people's talent within their field. So that's why I think hiring manager outreach is more helpful, or hiring team outreach is more helpful. The thing to do here is, though, firstly figure out you're reaching out to the right person or not. A lot of times you can just get that from LinkedIn. If you're not able to get that directly from LinkedIn on the job description, one of the things that you can do is just go to your search bar in LinkedIn and type out the name of the job and the company, right? And filter it by post. Don't filter it by jobs, filter it by
yeah,
post, right? When you filter it by post, you might actually land on the post that the hiring manager or the recruiter has done for this particular
yeah,
role, right? It
yeah,
won't always be the case, but many times it is the case today, right?
yeah,
Especially for more strategically important roles or highly visible roles, it frequently is the case. So you can do that as well to ensure you're reaching out to the right person. Now, once you know who the person is, I would suggest that the number one thing before you reach out to them is do two things. Read the JD very carefully, right? And
hmm,
try to understand what are the most important requirements in the JD, meaning things where they are saying this is a must have for us, this is a critical requirement for us.
yeah,
An ideal candidate should possess XYZ skills. So they'll use this kind of language to denote what is really important from a skill and personality fitment perspective. So imbibe that. And the second thing to look for is what we discussed earlier in referrals as well, is you know targeted company research. So go to the company's let's say website, their annual report, their media and investor presentations. Any one of these. You don't have to do all of it, any
yeah,
one of this, where you can get some information about what the heck is happening at the company
yeah,
right now. What is the current phase of their business? Are they growing? Are they declining? Are they doing certain special projects like maybe launching a new product, undergoing an M&A activity, something else which is unique to that company, right? And once you have done these two things, right, that is when you can start forming your thoughts on how to reach out to the hiring manager, because now you have the most important information that you need to boil down into your message. Number one is what are they looking for? Number two is
Yeah.
what are the company's biggest pain points and objectives at this time.
Yeah.
So now if you can draft a message to the hiring manager which incorporates the most critical points from these two things and how you are aligned with those things, that
Hmm.
to me is the best type of message or outreach you can do, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just saying, hey, I came across this post of yours, I have been in the same role for the last X years,
Yeah.
here's my resume, please consider my profile, right? And
Yeah.
I'm excited to join. So this is something that 90+% of people who reach out do. So there's
Yeah.
zero differentiation if you do that.
Yeah. I think moving away from a boilerplate sort of a reaching out message to finding what exactly the company is looking for, and aligning your skills and presenting your skills in a way that aligns with the objective of the company is very, very important. And I think if we can make that change, if professionals can make that change into their, you know, reach out message to the hiring manager, they would see much more, an increase in response rate. With
Hmm.
I mean, and then it really depends on the interview process whether or not you get the interview call, but the response rates would definitely be higher. I think it is very important to customize according to the company rather than just saying that you're interested. I think
Absolutely.
also, as somebody who is hired, I can definitely see that when somebody reaches out to a hiring manager saying, I'm interested in this, and I look forward to talking to you, that doesn't really cut it. You need to present why and how you align with the company's objectives and how can you
Yeah.
help them bring that.
Right. And the deeper you can
Success.
get into it in a very concise way, like, for example, I remember receiving a message as well when I was hiring for a role from a person who we didn't ultimately hire, but we definitely interviewed that
Yeah,
person pretty much within, I would say, 48 hours of him sending that message, was because that message really went deep into firstly understanding what the role was about,
yeah,
went deep into understanding what Pivot specially did for its consumers, and how that person was best suited to act upon those two things, right? What the role requirements and the company requirements were. And it was like one paragraph, couple of bullet points highlighting where they saw the alignment, and then a closing line with a
yeah,
CTA, right? Call to action. And that was it. It was probably less than, I would say, 70, 80 words in total. But that 70 to 80 words was so rich and powerful
yeah.
that it compelled us to make sure that we are at least interviewing this
At
guy.
least interviewing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that works because of two reasons. One is that you are making it easier for the hiring manager to understand you, and making it easier to approach your application and consider
mhm,
you. And the second is it really shows initiative. It really shows the initiative that they've actually gone beyond and above and beyond to actually research about the company, align what they can bring to the table to the
yeah,
objectives of the company. So I think these are some things that applicants can actually keep in mind. Show
yeah.
initiative and make it easier for the other person to understand your skills and what you bring to the table. I think
Yeah, and
those
just
are
one more point, Sahiti here,
yeah,
very quick. I think you have mentioned this earlier. The response rates, right? As you said, they usually do go up. Like I said earlier, we have seen almost a 3 to 4x improvement on average with our templated outreach, which can be customized for each individual. Now, a lot of people may think the work that we are talking about, which is reading the JD carefully, doing some research on the person or the company, that will take time, right? There is a downside to that, which is that it takes time and effort to do it.
yeah,
But the thing is, differentiation requires you to work harder than other people. So if you want to differentiate and improve your response rate, you will have to, work harder than most other people. But the thing that you can do is perhaps save your time by not, applying to hundreds of jobs or reaching out to hundreds of people. Because right now you might be reaching out to, 10, 15 people a day, right?
yeah,
And with the same kind of boilerplate message that you mentioned, Saidi. Now, maybe you don't need to reach out to 10 people a day, you reach out to only 5 or 6 people a day, but with a more
yeah,
customized message. So that way you
yeah,
can perhaps offset some of the time and effort it takes. And we always encourage focusing more on conversion rate as opposed to volumes, because
yeah,
volumes are a time suck. They just take up a lot of time, and you feel like you're making a great effort because you're
Yeah.
checking the box of applying to a job or reaching out to a person. But if you're not really succeeding, is it really worth it, right?
Yeah.
So to us, conversion rate matters more than volumes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you mentioned as a kind of a downside to, kind of customizing everything. The downside is that you will get to apply to a fewer number of applications, but
Yeah.
there is a definite upside to it. Your quality of application is better, and your
Hmm.
chances of actually getting through to that person or company is higher. So I think there are actually no downsides to it. It's just more effort that brings some differentiation to your profile. And I think in today's day and age where there are so many number of applicants, and it is easier to also apply online with easy apply on LinkedIn and other similar application methods. It's important to differentiate your profile
Yeah.
from the others and help the other person understand the differentiation as well. Like
Yeah.
there's no benefit to having a very differentiated profile if you're not able to present it properly. So I
Mhm.
think that presentation and communication is important. Arjun, I was planning to take questions later, but we have some pertinent
Yeah,
questions to
let's
these
let's take
topics.
them.
Yeah, so Tarun's question is the first one. So I'll just summarize it. I think he's trying to ask a question about reaching out to people and what to do if they don't, if you don't get a direct reply. So if you're trying to connect through LinkedIn asking for guidance on how to navigate into a certain domain outside of India, and somebody replies that they encourage you to search for the communities that could help you further, how do you address this situation? What can people do? I do see this to be a tricky one, but Arjun, what do you think one should do?
Yeah, Tarun, it's a good question. See, I don't know the message that you have sent to the CXO. So there are a couple of different scenarios here, right? One is that you have sent a great message and the person has responded with this, meaning you have sent a customized, thoughtful message, and they have looked at it, thought about it properly, and then responded with what you have shared. If that's the case, you just got to swallow the bitter pill and sort of move on, because like I said, response rates in cold outreach or even warm outreach, they are not guaranteed, right? A
Yeah,
positive response rate. I mean, at least this person has responded to you, which is great, but uh, most people would not even respond, right? So, like I said, we have seen the market average to be about, let's say, under 5%, which you can even, just Google for it, and you'll find that most cold outreaches get less than 5% responses. With us, we have seen closer to about, let's say, 20%, right? Now, 20% is still very low if you think about it overall. It's less than 50%, it's less than 40%. You're still going to face 80% of the times a situation where the person will not respond the way you expect them to, or will not respond at all, right? That is the nature of the process. That is the whole game. It's a probabilistic game where you have to undertake certain actions knowing that majority of the times you will get a rejection or not hear back. That's how job applications work, right? You don't just apply to only the jobs where you're interviewed. You're applying to, let's say, at least 50, 60, 70 jobs. You might hear back from, let's say, 5 or 10 of them, and that's a good response rate. So you should not necessarily think about every negative response, or a, let's say, no response as a failure. It's part of the process. But yes, if you're seeing that majority of people are not responding, or responding negatively, like you have a less than 5% response rate or less than 10% response rate, for sure you need to improve. So that's one part of this answer. The second part of this answer is that um, whatever this person has said is actually kind of true, where we also mentioned earlier that two things that really help get a referral or make inroads with a new company is when you connect with somebody through a common connection, or through a community where you are a member. And Pivot is one of those type of communities. So for for this example, if you knew somebody who knows this CXO and that person could vouch for you, right? And say that, okay, I've worked with Tarun, or I know Tarun really well, and he is really a great candidate for this kind of a role. uh, the CXO's response could have been slightly different, perhaps, because then she would have felt like, okay, I can trust the credibility behind Tarun's application. So that is one. And this obviously assumes that you have written a good message already and she didn't want to help in this case. But that's one of the ways you can change her answer from saying, hey, look at communities, to actually referring you. And the other is actually work upon what she has shared, which is ask her, can you suggest certain communities which you think might be relevant for me to join? Um, and that shows that you're open to taking feedback and you don't get demoralized by unexpected responses from people, right? So I think, yeah, you could just follow up and say, hey, thank you for your response. I would love to know if there are one or two communities even that you could suggest that might be relevant for me to join in this scenario. I have done my research and found this one. Do you think this is a good one? Something like that could be very helpful in this scenario.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Arjun. The suggestion of another like looking at another community, I think that is something that can be taken up to get a redirection, right? Even in the case that the mentor doesn't, the connect doesn't really respond in the way you want them to, and this
Mhm.
happens a lot of times. So this is something that is just a part of the outreach process sometimes. Tarun, I hope you found that useful. Now, I'm looking at the other question. So, Gaurav wants to know how to approach people in current company as well to provide reference of other companies as they have a lot of connects. So, somebody who's working with them but has references with other two other organizations. I see that being tricky, but there are a couple of ways that this can be approached, I think, in confidence. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Saiti, feel free to share your thoughts. It's a very interesting question. I don't think there's a one straight jacketed or a simple approach here, but I mean, I have some thoughts that I can definitely provide.
yeah, please do, please do.
So I think, Gaurav, firstly, if you are currently employed at your company and you're not on a notice period and people don't know that you're going to be leaving the company soon, my suggestion would be to not ask for references internally, because people talk. And just in case the news gets out that Gaurav is looking to leave while you have not been on notice period, then it can be problematic for you, right? Like your manager could come to know, your peers could come to know, and even if there is a 1% chance of that happening, I personally would not recommend that approach. But I assume, let's say you are on notice period and people know that you're going to be leaving the company, or perhaps there's a restructuring happening because of it. Certain functions and departments are at risk of being laid off or something like that. In that case, I think it's much more safe and rather the prudent and the right approach to ask your current colleagues for references, right? So in that case, I think what you should try and do is definitely um, target people who you believe are well connected within the company and who are the most helpful also. These two criteria, in my view, are the most important ones when you're looking for help with connections, right? Because in this case, you're primarily looking for connection. So if the person is not well connected, they won't be able to help you much. But the other problem we have seen is sometimes people are well connected, but they have a hesitation to help others for whatever reasons, right? They might feel like their reputation is at risk if they keep referring everybody. They might feel like, oh, I was not helped when I was coming up in my career, so I don't want to maybe give it back. There might be different reasons. I won't go into the details, but you will find sometimes that you reach out to people thinking they would help you and they may not. So try to identify the people who are most well connected. You can look at their LinkedIn profiles if you want to identify how many connections they have. And the other thing is, we have done this for a lot of our clients, is when they're applying, we sometimes come up with a list of target companies that they feel are most important to them. So let's say you have a 20 company list where you say that, okay, these are the 20 companies where I feel I would be a good fit for my next role. Now, when you look at those companies on LinkedIn, you can actually search who has worked there, meaning who is currently working there, but who's part of your network, and who has worked there previously, who's also part of your network, right? So you can identify this pretty easily on LinkedIn. So now, when you do this research on LinkedIn and you come up with, let's say, a couple of people who are currently working there, or if not, then at least people who have worked there in the past, which could be your current colleagues as well, then you can ask them, hey, I saw that you worked at XYZ company. Would you be open to, referring me for this role? So, yeah, I think that's what I would suggest. And last bit I would say is, if you don't know this person, like, maybe you're working at a very large company and there are thousands of people, so you don't really know the person, even though they are working at the same company, then you have to treat it in a similar way as reaching out to a stranger, in my view, right? You have to not assume that they would just help you because you work at the same company. You have to maybe put in 2 or 3 lines about why you think you might be the right fit for that particular company that you're applying to, or the role. So if you don't know the person that well, it always helps to differentiate your messaging and provide a very unique profile positioning for your application. If you know the person well, like they're a close colleague, then the trust is established. I don't think you need to spend a lot of time crafting that message. You can quickly ask them for a referral if they would be open to it. Yeah, I hope that answers.
Yeah, I hope that answers the question that Gaurav had. Um, Arjun, there's one more question, but I think the next topic that we have planned is kind of in the same on the same lines of it. We want to talk about personal branding. That is something everybody is now being more aware of, trying to build a personal brand. For anyone who's just getting started with it, how do you suggest they approach it? How do they get started with it wherever they are? Like, let's say they have about 5 to 10 years of experience and have like significant experience in whatever field they're working in, and they want to. Everybody understands now that there is a dire need for you know yourself to stand out in that pool of like applicants, and one way of doing that is to enhance your personal brand or establish your personal brand, show your skills to the world, build some sort of credibility through your work on social platforms like LinkedIn, Medium, wherever you can showcase your skills. How do people get started? Because I think that is something not everybody, there's no fixed formula around. But what have you seen that really works for people?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, Saiti, because I think a lot of people see my LinkedIn profile and they see that I'm a blue badge top voice and have decent following as well. But I will be honest, right? Personal brands today are much harder to build than they were
Yeah,
previously. That doesn't mean it's impossible. That people can't do it. I think you still can. There's a lot of potential for people to build personal brands, but I think the rules of the game have changed a little bit because the field has become much more crowded than it used to be. So earlier,
yeah,
let's say there were about 1 million people in India who were creating content and building their
yeah,
personal brand on LinkedIn. Today there might be close to, let's say, 3-4 million people, 5 million people, right? So
absolutely.
it's harder because you still have the same amount of attention span and time from others who are consuming content, but there is
Yeah,
more content to be consumed, right? So
yeah,
it's just the supply and demand dynamics have made it harder.
yeah,
But that being said, I mean, that's just a caveat. I would still recommend that you build a personal brand if you are doing it for the long haul. Don't just do it for, let's say a couple of weeks or month, because it's a waste of time. It won't work actually, right? Um, for most people at least. So if you feel that personal brand is something that aligns with your mid to long term goals, where it's not just about landing your next job, but also about really sharing your perspectives with your community, building a thought leadership brand for yourself, or just contribute to the community as well, meaning
yeah,
give back to people who are part of your community, then I think it's a good reason. And one of the benefits of building that brand is that it can help with your job search as well, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say here, and I hope it's clear, is that when you're thinking about whether to build a brand or not, don't say that, oh, I'm looking for a job, hence let me build my brand.
Yeah.
Because it will be very hard to get a
Very
job
hard.
within at least, let's say, 1, 2, 3 months, like that. But if you're saying that, okay, I am in it for the mid to long term, and I
Yeah.
know as part of my efforts, I could potentially get good collaboration opportunities or job opportunities, then yes, you're on the right track. You can think about it. Now, what helps to actually build the brand? I think you're right. There's no one, magic bullet,
Hmm.
but I would say that there are a couple of tried and tested mantras that have been shared by the experts, right? People, not me, I would say, even though some people say that, oh, Arjun, you have built a brand, how did you do it? I would say, actually, I've learned from others. I've stood on the shoulder of other giants, right? So there are many other folks um, who have come up with what works, what doesn't work. Um, and you can potentially try to replicate some of these formulas of success. So, number one is really know your audience, right? Who are you building for? Um, you can't build for everybody. You can't build for
Yeah.
hiring managers and your peers, and let's say position yourself as a thought leader in the industry. And basically, when you're trying to cater to anybody and everybody, you fall flat a lot of times. So you have to first understand who is your audience, and if it is, let's say, people in the same field who are at the same level or above you, which are typically the hiring managers for your role as well, then you need to make sure that you understand their habits really well, their content consumption habits, what kind of content works for them, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is, once you have decided who you are creating this content for, and you understand their content consumption habits, then you have to drill down into, okay, what are the areas you know well, or the areas that you have prior experience and expertise in, right?
Yeah.
Because if you talk about something just based on theoretical knowledge, most likely people are not going to really give much attention. But if you speak from experience and you share personal stories, anecdotes, and even, let's say, strong stances on certain controversial topics, those kind of
Yeah.
things, that can be very helpful. But think about it, it's called personal brand for a reason, right? You have to put the person in the personal brand, and that is where you bring your personality up front and say that this is why I think like this, right? If people
Yeah.
don't understand why you think a certain way, what
Yeah.
prior experience has led you to give this share this thought or give this advice, then anybody can use AI today to generate content, right? And that's one of the things that that's the third point that I want to say, is that you can use AI to get started, but I would not just depend on AI,
Yeah.
because again, it gives you very cookie cutter, content that everybody understands has been written by AI.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that even if you're leveraging AI perhaps as a brainstorming partner, that's okay. But then you need to leave your own imprint on the content. And the last thing I would say is experiment a lot, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
really is important for you to experiment with different type of content, different type of formats, and see what works well for you, because there's not going to be just one thing that works really well or that doesn't
Yeah.
work. So you'll have to continue to experiment and figure things out for yourself. Yeah, those are some of the initial starting points. Obviously, once you do it, you'll get better at it, and you have to do a lot of it, which is why I started by saying that long term game is much better here than a short term.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Um, Ayan, I think to your questions where you said that how do you communicate that you're best fit by showing confidence that you can actually learn the remaining skills. One is, personal branding will help you um, a significant way there to actually showcase your skills. And I think the second thing is also, I'll quickly add that you can always showcase transferable skills. That is also something that you can now showcase very well through blogs, through writings, and through actually working on something. So you can actually show transferable skills by working on something you haven't worked in your at your previous job, but have used some of the skills that you have learned there. Um, Now, I want to kind of also touch upon this other topic that we don't really talk about much. There's executive search firms, there are recruitment firms, but we don't really. That's not typically the a very traditional way of how job seekers actually
Hmm.
seek out jobs or
Right.
apply to jobs. Uh,
Hmm.
what do you think you would like job seekers to actually know about recruitment firms or executive search firms? How do they even get how do they approach firms, for example? I think this is more relevant for people who have slightly higher years of experience, but
Yeah.
would love to know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, yeah. So we have seen this as a sort of more niche area.
Yeah.
Definitely, Saiti. I don't think anybody and everybody can utilize this approach. But if you have, I would say, generally over 10 years experience, there is an opportunity to leverage this approach. Obviously, the more experience you have, the higher the opportunity and chances of leveraging this executive search and recruiter collaboration. But couple of different things that I wanted to talk about here is number one is there are certain exec search firms out there which you can just Google about. I mean, there are a couple of popular ones in India, some of which are very India based, India focused, and some of them are global also with an India uh, arm. And we in fact have connections and partnerships with some of them ourselves, right,
Right.
where we supply candidates to these companies because they are looking for candidates, right? So
Right.
what are these exec search firms? Let's just quickly define that. Basically,
Yeah.
these are consultancies in essence that help organizations hire experienced talent typically,
Right.
right? So generally you would see that a lot of them get a mandate based on the company requirement saying that, okay, we are hiring for XYZ role, can you help us fill this role? Now there are going to be certain other staffing firms also, right, which we call recruitment firms or staffing firms apart from exec search firms. They work with people at pretty much all levels, and they especially work with a lot of folks who are looking for temporary, part-time, those kind of roles, right? Because when you have like let's say there's a company which has temporary seasonal hiring requirements, then
Right.
they need to do a lot of that hiring, right? Because they're only hiring for a finite time, and then next season they need to hire again. So
Yeah.
these recruitment companies have a lot of high volume of candidates that they hire at
Right.
a slightly lower pay, typically like average pay or lower pay, because they are more focused on the volumes.
Yeah.
Exec search firms, they are less focused on the volumes, more focused on the quality of the candidates that they bring to the table, right? So depending on where you are in your career, you might first want to think about whether an exec search firm is more relevant for you or a recruitment staffing firm is more relevant, right? The more experience you have, the better it is to go to an exec search firm, I would say, especially if you're looking for a full-time role. Now, you can identify a couple of these firms. I'll share some names as well. Like there's Michael Page, which I know a lot of people have heard about in India. There is Corn Ferry. There is Spencer Stewart. There is Manpower Group. Um, Phidias is one of the companies. Phidias Advisory is one of the companies which focuses on two, three tech specific functions, meaning they hire for companies in certain tech specific functions. So those are more niche kind of advisory firms and search firms as well. So these are some of the examples. What you can do is check out their website. You will see a lot of times they have listed out the openings that they are hiring for, right? So what you need to do is they will have on their website somewhere a place for you to drop your resume or upload your resume and write a short message about why you are reaching out to them, what kind of roles you think might be relevant for you. It is free, you don't have to pay anything. They don't work for you though, you have to understand these companies are working for their clients, right, organizations who are paying them. So
Yeah.
their loyalty is to that company, and they would make sure that they are reviewing the best possible candidate profiles and shortlisting the ones that work for the client. So in essence, they are an outsourced recruiter, That's what they are. They are an outsourced recruiter, right? So what this approach can help with is, if there are certain roles where the company has hired one of these search firms or recruitment firms, then rather than reaching out to the hiring manager directly or recruiter, you can also reach out to this company, and they would be very much willing to look at your profile at least, because they want to ensure they have given it their best shot. Lot of times people don't know about this route, so they skip it completely, right? Because they are not even aware that there's a search firm or a recruitment agency that's in the play. So if you make yourself more visible to these people, they know your profile exists, then there's a higher likelihood that they would be considering you for the opportunities that they are hiring for. As simple as that. The way of outreach is simple also, like I said, on the website, or if you can't find a great website because it's a niche firm, you can reach out to them on LinkedIn. Usually, if it's a very small recruitment agency, like now there are hundreds of small recruitment agencies, so you can reach out to them over there. But the messaging and everything should be similar to what we have discussed earlier. You're not seeking a referral from them, but you're still trying to prove to them that you're the right candidate for this role, right? So I think these are some of the things that yeah, play an important role in this kind of a approach.
Very quickly, Arjun, is there anything else that really, leads to a successful approach to with executive search firm led job hunt? Anything else apart from, you know, customizing to what their requirements are?
Yeah.
Anything, any other
Yeah,
insider tips that you can
I
share?
don't know if customization is something I can talk about right now, because that's
Yeah,
something you would get to know once you have a call. So I'll actually tell you what a successful strategy here might look like. Firstly, have clarity on what type of roles you might be looking for. Reach out to these firms when you're not very desperate. Like if you're in a layoff situation, unless you have a really good profile, chances are they would not look at your profile, because they prioritize more people who are not desperate looking for a
yeah,
new job. They try to focus on people who are comfortable in their careers, because they don't want to present a candidate to their client who might be perceived as somebody who's laid off or unemployed right now. A lot of times that unfortunately is considered a stigma by these companies. But if you are, let's say, employed currently, then definitely think about reaching out to them. They'll most likely set up a call with you if they think your profile is of interest to them for any opening that is on their mandate. And once you have that call with them, they would try to really understand, dig deep into your profile, meaning what work you have done so far, what are you looking for, and all that. If they think it aligns with the kind of hiring mandates they have, they'll keep your profile on record, and then they will push your profile to the right clients, right? One of the things that really helps is, again, sort of a mid-term to long-term strategy here, not a short-term one. But the more important thing is follow-up. And that is one thing that I have not touched upon before in this conversation. But everything almost that we have discussed with regard to outreach, whether it's for referrals, whether it's to hiring managers, whether it's to exec search firms, follow ups are that very powerful yet underrated tool that can literally double or triple your response rate from these people, right? Um, People, I don't know why it's such a simple thing. They just give up after one try, many a times, thinking that the person they've reached out to is not interested in helping them. You have to think about it in a different way. Most people are very busy. They get many such requests. They have their personal and professional lives to take care of. They just forget. They want to help a lot of times, right? But they just forget. So you have to remind them with a follow up with a short message. Same with
yeah,
exec search firms. We have seen, like, you might have a call with the exec search firm, let's say today. They may not reach out to you for the next month or even 2 months, but you can just follow up with them maybe after a month and say, hey, we had a chat and it went really well, and this is what we had discussed. Just wanted to see if there is any new opportunity in your mandate, right? That can really be effective. So yeah, follow-ups are very, very helpful in such cases. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, Sahiti, from my end.
great. Um, Thanks, Arjun. I think there's one more question from Ayan who says that any tips about how one can showcase the personal branding thing that we talked about in a CV, in a resume. How do you showcase that?
Interesting question. I don't think there's a lot of opportunity to showcase your content that much unless the content is directly related to the work you do. Like, for example, if you have created specific post around how you went about solving a specific work-related problem, you could include a link perhaps in the project section or other section within your CV, but it's not very common to do. The only thing which I can think of that you can include in your CV is, in your key achievements section or somewhere related to that, you can talk about that you have been able to build a personal brand with X many followers or people who have consumed your content and benefited from it, right? So, for example, if you're a LinkedIn top voice, you can write that as an achievement. If you have a community of 10,000, 20,000, etc. people, you can talk about that just in maybe a short line. If that helps showcase your, your strengths and your achievements, I think you can do that.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I don't see a lot of opportunity for this, unless obviously you're applying to content marketing roles. If your job is to create content, then definitely, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to then talk about your personal brand. Um,
Yeah.
but most people are not content marketers, right? So, yeah.
I think including the LinkedIn link is a very big way of including your personal brand. If you're building it
Oh, yeah.
primarily on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
most of the recruiters or hiring managers will actually check out your LinkedIn profile and kind of try to find out more about you. And that's where you can showcase a lot of your work and your thought leadership. I think that also really helps. Um,
That's a very good point.
Great. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. We'll be happy to take any more questions, but we're slightly over time, so we have to wrap it up quickly. But I think since there are no more questions that I'm seeing, anything to quickly wrap this up, Arjun, that you want to kind of share at the end of our conversation now?
Um, yeah, no, I think we've covered a lot of ground, and I hope people found this helpful. I think main thing is to figure out how to augment your job search strategy with the points that we have shared. You don't need to stop applying on portals, right? With no way we are
Yeah.
suggesting, hey, completely give up on applying on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
Naukri, or IM jobs or any of these. Um, but realize that there are certain challenges with that, which just purely depending on that approach. And so, with these 4 5 strategies that we have shared today, you can amplify your chances by, I would say at least 2x or 3x. So, yeah, I hope you found this insightful. And thank you, Sahiti, for asking such great questions and sharing your own experience as well.
Thanks, Arjun. I think it has been a very insightful talk. We have actually delved deep into a lot of the different topics that we've had, and I think if we can highlight 2 to 3 takeaways. One is that customize as much as you can each message, each outreach message. Try to find a connect with the person that you're reaching out with. Whether it be a connect of shared interests, shared experience, or a common connect. Try to be mindful in that approach as well. Then try to focus on the quality instead of the quantity. I think that's something we also spoke about. And building a personal brand is so much more trickier but very important as well, because it helps you develop that individual voice and thought leadership that you can actually demonstrate. I hope everyone found this yeah, Gloria, thanks for asking. I just had a quick recap of the 5 points. I think you can revisit the video to actually know about it too. Um, but I think we'll close with a quick thank you to everyone who's joined. I hope everyone found this talk really helpful. And thanks, Arjun, for the time and for actually going through this important topic in such detail.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your day.